It's Pledge Week on Center Stage with Milfred and Hands. No, just kidding.
But, I hate Pledge Week.
I was driving in today listening to Wisconsin Public Radio, and if I had been a concealed carry owner, I would have shot the radio. And if you had given me one WPR listener on that jury, I would have gotten off for any related charges.
I tell you what, I give to WPR every single year.
God bless you.
I feel like since I give, I should get like a code to listen to the radio without the stupid pledge drive. I cannot stand it.
But mostly I feel sorry for the people on the air, just for hours have to banter about nothing other than, please give us some money.
That sounds like the worst job ever. It's like being a congressman. Please give us some money. Please give us some money.
But today on Center Stage, instead of talking about our growing audience giving us money, we're going to talk about giving away money.
Giving away billions and billions of dollars.
$4.5 billion to be approximate and not exact. We're going to talk about Foxconn, the gigantic flat-screen television company that's coming to Racine County courtesy of your tax dollars.
That's right.
Center Stage, of course, is the State Journal's political podcast. It is political talk from the sensible center of Wisconsin politics.
Locally sourced craft opinion.
And it features...
I'm Phil Hands. I'm the editorial cartoonist at the Wisconsin State Journal.
And I'm Scott Milfred, the editorial page editor of the Wisconsin State Journal. We are half of the State Journal's editorial board.
The better-looking half.
So let's run down for our readers, what is Foxconn, Phil, and why are we talking about it?
Well, it's this Taiwanese manufacturing company. They create screens and hardware for things like iPhones and tablets and big flat screen televisions. They are moving to they wanted to locate in the United States somewhere. It's a deal that Trump got us. And
he's a deal maker.
He's a deal maker.
He makes the best deals.
The best deals.
Beautiful deals.
This is a beautiful, beautiful
Very
deal.
Very classy deals.
And so they picked Wisconsin as the place they're going to locate. They're going to locate in the very southeast corner of the state, Racine County. It's near the Illinois border, and it's south of Milwaukee.
And it's supposed to be a $10 billion plant. 11 Lambeau Fields or something.
A bunch of Lambeau Fields.
Many Lambeau Fields size.
They superimposed the size of the plant over the isthmus once in Madison, and it was gonna go into the lake on both ends. It was bigger. I mean, this plant's gonna be bigger than the isthmus.
They're saying initially 3,000 jobs and as many as eventually 13,000 jobs, and I believe they're touting the average salary at around $50,000.
Yeah, they're sort of saying we hope to get to 13,000 jobs.
Yeah, there's no guarantee on that. However, there is a guarantee on what the state is going to hand out to Foxconn for every job they make. And it's 17% of payroll. Essentially, Wisconsin will be subsidizing for every job they create. That will cost state taxpayers about $3 billion. And then on top of that, there's more than another billion and some change in local incentives.
It's a big tax package. It's a big incentive to get a manufacturer to move to the state. The idea is it'll transform Wisconsin's economy. But I think it's kind of a risky move. So one of the good things about the way the subsidy is laid out is we only sort of pay for the jobs they create. So if they don't create 13,000 jobs, we're not on the hook for all $3 billion of this subsidy. But the other thing that's a little bit weird is just that, Foxconn basically gets to pay their employees lower wages, and the state of Wisconsin will chip in so they're, I'm doing air quotes now, middle-class living wage jobs.
Yeah, technically it is a tax credit, but because the Republicans who run the state house years ago essentially exempted manufacturers from paying state income taxes, when they get a credit for their income taxes, it's just money sent to them. So the state treasury will actually be writing out checks every year for each job that they create. And it will be presumably a couple $100 million a year eventually that we'll be signing over to them.
And one of the things that worries me is that a lot of these state subsidies dollars are going to go to residents of Illinois. Because if you look at, the area around Foxconn, Lake County, which is just the farthernmost county of Illinois, That's basically suburban Chicago. From anywhere in Lake County, you're about a 30 to 45-minute drive to the Foxconn plant, and there's 700,000 people that live in that county. If you look at Racine County has just under 200,000 people, and Kenosha County has about 150,000 people in it. So I think one of the big reasons that they picked this part of the state is because it's so close to all these workers in Illinois. We don't have a bunch of unemployed people in Wisconsin. We are basically at capacity for our workforce.
Yeah, we actually have a workforce shortage that's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger the further we go out into the future.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things, though, related to your point on Illinois, has been reading some of the Chicago Tribune editorials. They have really lamented that Wisconsin got the Foxconn plant and Illinois didn't. And the editorial line is sort of that Chicago and Illinois, these are the kind of things we used to get. We're not getting them anymore because our state is a basket case. And look at Wisconsin. They're on the uptake here, and they're landing all these jobs, and we're jealous of them.
See, I just don't see it that way. I think they're going to get Illinois jobs with Wisconsin taxpayer dollars. I think that's what's going to happen in this situation. And I think Illinois, that region of Illinois is going to benefit as much from the supply chain as southeastern Wisconsin is going to benefit from the supply chain.
Yeah, they're getting something for nothing. But when this announcement first came, I think everybody thought, wow, this is a huge win for Wisconsin, and especially Governor Walker.
Except for the super lefties who, anything that's good for Governor Walker must be bad.
Right, but I think most people thought, wow, we're getting a major employer in the technology business, and there could even be some spin-offs over Madison's way and across the state in terms of some technology jobs. The CEO of Foxconn, his wife died of cancer, and there's some talk of them doing some kind of partnership or high-tech thing
collaboration with the university or something like that.
Yeah, and it's undoubtedly going to be good for the Wisconsin economy, but he kind of gave away the store here in terms of landing it.
Walker did,
to land it.
Walker gave away the store. This is a huge subsidy, and if you believe in free market economics where the government shouldn't be picking the winners and losers, this is sort of goes counter to all of those philosophies.
Yeah, even if they create 13,000 jobs, state taxpayers will still be on the hook paying over $200,000 per job to Foxconn. That's tenfold bigger than what we would usually do for a job.
It'd be great if the state taxpayers, subsidized state journal jobs to $200,000 a pop,
Maybe we should apply.
I think one of the things that's sort of troubling about this, too, is that it sounds like other big companies in Wisconsin are sort of seeing Foxconn as the new normal. Isn't Kimberly Clark discussing, they want the same sort of salary subsidy that Foxconn's getting now?
Yeah, I've kind of come to grips with, okay, we're spending a lot of money on Foxconn,
and I hope it does well.
Yeah.
I hope it's successful. I don't want it to fail.
Yeah.
I think that would be the worst is if we spend all this money and it fails. We've spent all this money. Let's hope it pans out and revigorates our economy and takes us places we haven't been before.
Yeah, I think we paid way too much for it, but we got it. Let's make it work. But when Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, essentially the economic development arm of the state, when they came in and met with our editorial board and talked about this, one of the concerns we raised initially was, are you setting the bar so high here that everyone else who wants to come to Wisconsin from now on or just stay in Wisconsin, they're going to expect the same thing? And they said, we understand that is an issue and we're certainly going to resist that. And what we had heard from the governor was this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to get this amazing technology employer who's going to transform the Wisconsin economy. And it certainly is going to transform, I think, the southeastern Racine County economy. But within a month or so, the governor was saying, hey, I'll give the same Foxconn deal to the paper companies up in Winnebago County.
Yeah, I mean, it's dangerous that we're going to be subsidizing businesses that we like, and I guess this is something that people criticize Republicans criticize Democrats for all the time with their, subsidies for solar companies. We're not
picking winners and losers is the
government's
line.
not supposed to be picking winners and losers, and Wisconsin, we are picking winners and losers nowadays.
We did an editorial last week on this issue again because we were troubled when Kimberly Clark, a paper company, not exactly a high-tech company, the governor was saying he would give them the Foxconn deal. By the way, they didn't even ask for it. They just announced they were going to close a couple plants. But he said, hey, yes, I'll save those jobs by subsidizing 17% of Kimberly-Clark's paper company jobs also. Then last week, down in Janesville, some advocates were like, hey, wait a minute, the GM plant closed here a decade ago. Where's our subsidy?
That's right.
We want the Foxconn Splurge too down here. So it's suddenly become the new norm, at least in expectations.
This is one of those areas where the partisan divide has shifted. 20 years ago, stuffy conservatives used to talk about creative destruction and free markets, and it used to be the union people that were always fighting for, we need to, protect these jobs, and we need subsidies to make these jobs work. And it seems like we've flipped on those. The partisan divide has flipped on this issue.
Well, and that's partly just because Republicans are in charge. So whatever the Republicans are going to do, the Democrats are going to criticize. I mean, that's natural. But the politics will be interesting on this because the Republicans, by and large, supported this. The Democrats, by and large, did not support it. There were, of course, some that cross lines. For example, Peter Barca, who represents a assembly district down in the far eastern, southeastern Wisconsin, he voted for the Foxconn deal. Of course, it was going to help his constituents. That's part of the reason why
he's no longer a minority leader.
Right. There were some Republicans that opposed the deal too. For example, the Dodgeville Assemblyman Todd Novak, which kind of brings us to the politics of this. The Marquette Law School poll back in late February, early March asked voters about the Foxconn deal. 38% of registered voters thought that Foxconn would be worth the subsidy. 49% said it would not be worth it. 57% thought that the Milwaukee region would get a boost from it, but 66% of registered voters across the state did not think it would benefit their area. That was 800 registered voters that they looked at. So it's popular right where it is, but it's not very popular across the rest of the state.
Yeah, and what's interesting is we've seen this happen, or this divide spring up a little bit in some of our editorial board meetings where, people who aren't in the Milwaukee area, no matter what party they're in, can sort of agree on certain issues like transportation funding, and Milwaukee's getting way too much in terms of road building while, our communities are suffering. And there is sort of this Milwaukee rural divide. And even some Dane County lawmakers are on the side of see eye to eye with some rural Republicans when it comes to Milwaukee getting too many subsidies, because there's a lot of power in the Milwaukee area. A lot of the Republicans are in suburban Milwaukee, and there's just a lot of power in that region of the state.
Well, and politically, we have to remember this is an election year, so a lot's on the line this fall in terms of the Assembly, Senate, and Governor Walker and whether he's going to get a third term. When Donald Trump won in Wisconsin, a lot of people touted the Trump voters, sort of the blue-collar guy, I guess, and to some degree gal, who had supported Democrats maybe somewhat in the past, but
maybe they were union members.
Yeah, but this time they came out for Trump. I mean, that happened in Racine and Kenosha County. Both of those counties went for Trump. Previously, they had gone for Obama.
Yeah.
However, if you're a rural voter in northern Wisconsin, the polling is suggesting you're not all that excited about Foxconn.
No. You might be saying, where's mine?
But this is still going to play out. I mean, Foxconn just this week, we're dropping this podcast on Friday, but just this week, Foxconn got some air permits from the state, and it's going to continue to move forward. It's hiring people. Spin-off companies may come in. So I'm thinking that probably it's hit its low point here in terms of polling, where people don't think it's worth it. It's not paying off for the state treasury until 2042, and a lot of their tax dollars are going to it.
I'm going to be old by then, Scott.
But I think as the company builds some momentum and more activity happens there, it probably will help Governor Walker and the Republicans in southeastern Wisconsin. I think it probably will hurt them, though, across some of the state that thinks it doesn't affect them. Another interesting underlying tone to this whole Foxconn thing is it is a Taiwanese company. It's a foreign company. The Trump rhetoric during the campaign aimed a lot at Mexico China was that these foreign companies are, eating our lunch, and we're not going to let that happen anymore. So now you have this foreign company coming in and getting a bunch of checks from state taxpayers.
Yeah, and we're fine with that.
Well, according to the poll, most people are not fine with it, but it will be interesting to see how much...
But Trump's fine with that.
Yeah. It will be interesting to see as this plays forward how much the different candidates talk about it. I watched the Democratic debate at La Follette High School.
God bless you, Scott.
For the Democratic candidates for governor. They didn't bring up Foxconn a lot, but it was brought up, and of course, everybody who brought it up was against it or suspicious of it. For a while there, the governor was really quiet on Foxconn when he did. It was either his budget address or the State of the State. He didn't mention it in one of those, and people were like, ooh, the polling's bad. He's not going to mention it. Mm-hmm. But now he has been touting it a little bit more lately, so I'm kind of wondering if he figures, I need to own this, and I need to sell it, and I need to make people believe in it.
Well, people are going to start putting shovels in the ground. I mean, construction is going to start. Land's been purchased, so now that it's kind of underway, there isn't really a way to avoid its existence. One of the things that I think is really interesting about this is Republicans are sort of touting this, and I heard, Walker said this, and Paul Ryan has talked about this, this is a way to reinvigorate our state's economy and keep our young people from leaving a state. That's sort of one of these issues, is the brain drain in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. And I hope they're right, but I'm worried that that's not the case, because I think a lot of young people, they're not looking for a kind of mundane factory job building screens. They want a hip urban environment, which is not Racine County. They want places like Madison, Wisconsin, and maybe Milwaukee, and maybe Eau Claire. They want hip places with interesting things to do, and interesting creative jobs, which is different than what Foxconn's offering. I don't know how much it's going to stem the brain drain in the state.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Look at what Epic, the health information software company in Verona, which is huge. It has more than 10,000 workers now.
It's going to be the same size as Foxconn, basically, when it's all said and done, maybe.
That one company, it has transformed Madison in a way, and not just Verona, downtown Madison, where a lot of these people want to live.
I think the people that work at Epic are going to be different than the people that work at Foxconn.
Well, I think you're right.
Because most people at Epic, Epic's looking for young, creative people with college degrees who want to live in an urban environment. I'm not sure those same type of people are going to be building the flat screens at Foxconn.
Maybe not, but what if some of those bright young people want to live in Milwaukee, in the historic Third Ward or somewhere like that, and commute out on a special Foxconn bus the way that they commute from downtown Madison out to Verona?
It's a longer bus ride.
Well, we'll get bullet buses.
Bullet buses. That sounds
just so it's not trains.
So it's not. Trains are always boondoggles. A bullet bus is a beautiful idea.
I will say this about Foxconn: it could turn out to be a great, to paraphrase or to use a word from the president, thing for Wisconsin. Even with the giant subsidy, you never know. There could be some huge spin-offs here. Different kinds of technology companies, suppliers. Maybe 10 years from now we'll be saying, wow, that we paid a crazy amount of money for that, but it was worth it.
It could also be a giant boondoggle, worse than the train from between Madison and Chicago ever would have been.
And it's probably going to be somewhere in between. My guess is, of course, it's going to be good for Wisconsin in terms of southeastern Wisconsin. I still think the price tag's way too high.
Yeah.
So now, Phil, when you do cartoons on Foxconn, you draw a gigantic fox.
I like the fox. It's sort of, I've never drawn a fox before Foxconn moved in. But I always do this fox, and he's always smoking a cigar, because anybody that makes money has to smoke a cigar. And he's wearing a big, gangster suit, because that's, of course, what business people do, right? I mean, that's what they do.
And in one cartoon, little Scotty Walker brought home this fox that he had found that was a stray fox.
A stray fox, and Scotty Walker's mom said the fox was eating him out of house and home, as the fox was lapping up 7 billion gallons of water a day or something like that.
And eating something like $4 billion of food out of their kitchen.
I wish my food was labeled taxpayer subsidies.
We'll see you next week.